The robbery incident that took the life of one of the crew members of Alive TV is a national tragedy. Honestly, what does that portend to people living in Abuja? That means the security of life and properties of Nigerians aren't guaranteed, not even at the seat of Abuja, which Abuja being the seat of power. It is quite unfortunate that such robbery incidents could last for several hours and the Joint Task Force was security operatives were overrun or overpowered by these people claiming that they have more sophisticated weapons and assault rifles. What does that tell? If there could be anywhere in Nigeria that should be considered safer, I mean, Abuja should have been uh, the most prioritized or secured region of Nigeria, but sadly, that wasn't the case. Now, what does that tell you about Nigeria? Despite observing the 65 independence yesterday, being the 1st of October, there are so many questions left unanswered. Is Nigeria truly independent? What does independence of a state implies? Of course, the literal meaning of independence is not just in the declaration, but the ability to guarantee the safety of life and properties of the citizenry. And prioritizing the welfare and security of the citizenry is what guarantees a true independence. It is an eye opener and a revelation of the state of the country. If such choice regions or estate within the Abuja could be overrun, the assailants, the robbers moving from one flat to the other, ransacking the innocent citizens of Nigeria that led to such level of panic that Somtochukwu has to jump from the third-story building. Were there no security? Unfortunately, we're told that the security personnel were overpowered by the firepowers of these assailants, who were well prepared, armed to the teeth. I mean, in the seat of power, Abuja, regardless of any part of Abuja, Abuja should have been the most sensitive territory, the federal capital territory. You know what that means? It's more or less like invading the Washington, D.C. And yet such assailants could overpower the security details, maneuver, beat the intelligence of the DSS, of the National Intelligence Security, and the rest of them. They came within the territory of the seat of power and unleashed horror and eventually get out without being accosted, without being intercepted, or even there was no any sort of engagement with them. The people who overpowered the Joint Task Force security operatives within the region. Now you begin to ask, where are the area surveillance? When those bullets, I know these are sophisticated rifles, when they are being released, were there not any signal to the defense headquarters to pick that and mobilize area surveillance the air using fighter jet or helicopter? Because it's a threat to the national security. Attack on any part of Abuja should be considered a threat to the national security. There's nothing short of this. Now, if these people could confidently, without any recourse, overrun such communities in Abuja situated within the seat of power, then it means there could be any possibility, possibly they are test running their strategies and expanding their network, their coordination. If such could be successful without getting any one of them arrested or down, then it means there is serious problem. There's fundamental security problem that could no longer be denied. Of recent, the Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, they have made a very strong position to reveal the sponsors of terror in Nigeria. The sponsors of terrorism in Nigeria, they are making their findings and compilations and how arms are being procured from money being wired to Burkina Faso to procure arms and the rest of them. These are realities, and eventually it's been wired or ferried through private jets to Kwara State and it's been distributed. And what we are seeing today in Kwara State is something that is heartbreaking. Kwara State indigenes, especially the predominant Yoruba settlings, are now carrying their hearts in their heads. No peace, no security. Everybody is apprehensive of what might become the next. For those who are still around their communities, several communities have been deserted. It has now more or less become ghost communities. In the course of this assault, one of the ballets, which means the traditional monarchical leader in the order of the Yoruba monarchical system or community leader, was also key. With the king, they take over your land, they restore and replace your kings and the rest of them. So who is actually behind all this happenings? And what is the very essence of primary responsibility of any government? The primary responsibility of the government shall be to protect the life and property and prioritize the welfare of Nigerians. But do you see that happening today? Yes, yesterday was 65 years of Nigerians' walk to independence or to nationhood. Have we actually become a nation? The late one of the founding fathers, in fact, the founding fathers of Nigeria made these striking submissions. The likes of Awolowo said that Nigeria was just a mere geographical expression and has not, or possibly could not attain nationhood. 65 years down the line, it is more becoming clearer the position expressed by Chief Obafemi Awolowo about the state of the country. That is mere geographical expression. It does not have the coherence to become a nation. Because if you must attain that nationhood, you must address basic economic security and social concerns. A vibrant lady with great aspiration, with great, of course, future was cut short in her prime age, in her productive age, at 29, by virtue of the choice she made to live in Nigeria. She said in one of the broadcasts, she was opportune to have jackpot to United Kingdom and felt she wasn't fulfilled, not minding the money, of course, she's getting from there. And eventually, never knew that the greatest mistake she had made was to return back to Nigeria after escaping the horrors, the tragedy called Nigeria. Because Nigeria eventually happened to her. Very unfortunate, very sad. Not just her, but many uncountable has become victims of this cruelty. After listening to her, when the Arise TV were giving out tributes to her and there's a way of last respect, I heard one of the replay, a video that was replayed, where she said she actually jacked from Nigeria to UK. She worked for some years or so and decided to come back to Nigeria. Sadly, at her own residence, the tragic events, the most horrifying scene or trauma she faced could not spare her life. As a result of panic, of the unknown, what would have happened to her if the entire security operatives has been overpowered and cars, people's vehicles, properties, laptops are being moved from one flat to the other. What does that tell you? For several hours, what is the response time when there are state of emergency? Sadly, it is in Nigeria. When you go to police station at certain hours, they will tell you, well, there's no police. I mean, these are urban regions of Lagos. There is incident that there is no police available to effect such arrest or the same. And sometimes they might demand, okay, you have to fuel a car, you have to mobilize us and the rest of them. All those break, those uh, conditions, hard conditions, make it almost impossible to guarantee the safety and security of Nigerians. Can you imagine a beautiful lady who once represented Nigeria, I think, was it in China uh, contest or so, unfortunately could lose her life in what is considered a very tragic experience. Well, this has been most experience of Nigerians. If I were, unfortunately, if she were to come back alive, or at that particular incident, I strongly believe she definitely may have regretted the choice she made coming back to Nigeria. But that is not just to say that she did that because of the love or she believed for her country to contribute to the growth and development of the country. But sadly, uh, the tragic incidents happens. The least the government can do to her citizens is to guarantee their security. That is the least any government can do. But sadly, such is not tenable within this Nigerian state. Abuja has become a spotlight of ever-rising escalations of insecurity. The normal and societal life of Abuja have been disrupted. Abuja is known for nightlife and the rest of them, but people are beginning to withdraw because of the continued escalations of kidnapping, robbery. You can imagine with such effrontery coming to the territory, Federal Capital Territory, unleashing mayhem. There were no area surveillance, there were no helicopters, combat ready crew that could navigate, mount surveillance over these regions. The entire Abuja should have been wired with 24/7 CCTV cameras that could pick any suspicious movement or signals. It is quite very unfortunate. Now, if Abuja could not be wired with CCTV, what is the possibility of installing these CCTVs to other regions far from Abuja? How successful could that be? Honestly, that raises concern about the sincerity and commitment of the government to contend with this national calamity, national dilemma, honestly, as some persons believe that the state of insecurity is being fueled by certain political interests or vested interests. They don't care how many people goes down, provided their interest is protected. Who is empowering and enabling this continued assault on Nigerian citizens? What is the primary responsibility of government? I think it's time to review the state of the nation. Does Nigeria really have independence? And what does independence implies to an average Nigerian? What is the basic definition of independence? Independence, of course, everywhere across Nigeria was moldy, was in fact as if Nigerians were mourning. They are mourning and not celebrating independence. They were mourning. Talk of high rates of poverty, hunger, insecurity, inflation, starvation. And here comes the government telling us that the worst is over. Sadly, we are trapped. Nigerians are trapped in the worst situation. It was a heartbreaking news for a lady as a result of fear living in the seat of power at the capital territory could jump because of panic. She definitely could not have imagined her mental health, definitely, if she could have survived, would have been affected or impacted negatively for life. She couldn't imagine the possibility of what really happened. So it came to her as a shock, a very paralyzing one for that matter. She had no other option than to flee herself. What a tragedy. What a pain, of course. A very painful death. Not just because he jumped from the cliff, but because of the tragic trauma she was subjected to. And because of the choice she made to return back to a country she called her own, but sadly, that even her security as in Nigeria could not be guaranteed, not just outside the shores of Nigeria, but within the Nigerian defined territory, making it worse the seats of power. If Abuja, anyone resident in Abuja is not safe, then how could the other regions within the Nigerian safety be guaranteed? The likes of Kwara State, you saw what is happening, that is being alleged that helicopters or jets are being used to distribute weapons to unleash mayhem on the indigenous people. Yet, Nigeria is talking about 65 years of democracy. That is a colossal failure of the system, of the security system. So it means such helicopter, Nigerian airspace could be invaded without any tracking. Wow, this is quite interesting. What are they really telling us? Now, Burkina Faso have threatened, not just a threat, they meant to release, to expose the heavy top politicians and the military hierarchies has been alleged collaborating with the terrorists. They are collaborating. Well, this is not the first time such list could be made public. And the United Arab Emirates, was it in 2022 or so, also published certain names. And the former boss of the Nigerian intelligence agency also revealed certain shocking revelations that the sponsors of this Boko Haram are still within the Nigeria, just as Jonathan in his time said that the Boko Haram are part of his cabinet member. You know what that means? They are part of his cabinet members. Possibly, should they be exposed, it means that certain governors, even presidents, senators, and top ranking security operatives could be indicted in that process. Could it be the reason why the list, the inquest on cracking down these sponsors went underground? Buhari could not do anything with the list, possibly because he knew he could be an accomplice to whatever is going on. He told Nigerians that these people will go to try it secretly, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And here comes Tinubu again, the likes of Erufai, Nasri Erufai, Baba Ahmed Dati has also accused the Tinubu administration of compensating or paying the terrorists that they are in his payroll. Which Nigerians are still waiting for the likes of Adenoga and the rest of them to the box search, the presidential spokespersons or the office of the president to deny such and possibly ask them to publish whatever information at their disposal if they are really serious. Which LFI said, if they doubt it, we are ready to publish the transactions and details at our disposal. But sadly, such has not happened. Now, what is that faith or confidence in this administration that they are really involved and engaged in the fight against terrorism?